Before we get to our content for today, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Iowa Floor Covering and their Tough Core Click Together 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring. The guys down at IFC in Bondurant are here to serve you Hawkeye fans out there across the state. Visit iowafloorcovering.com/DIY to check out this great self-installation deal. And Ascent Nutrition. Use the code Hawkeyes to receive 15% off your total order. Perhaps it's the lion's mane mushroom, the newest product, one of their newest products out there. Maybe it's the pine pollen powder that has so many great benefits, or their Ascent coffee, which is a daily must. Visit goascentnutrition.com to read about all these great products. Again, goascentnutrition.com. So unexpected news dropping. Iowa defensive tackle Noah Shannon releasing a statement admitting his involvement in the gambling investigation, which has been ongoing now with the NCAA since May. Shannon was scheduled to be part of Big Ten Media Days along with Cooper DeJean and Luke Lachey, but the super senior who came back for the extra year has decided to opt out of Big Ten Media Days as a result of still being involved with this ongoing NCAA gambling investigation. Here is the official statement from Noah Shannon released through the university. He says, and I quote, "Being selected to represent the Iowa Hawkeye football team at Big Ten Media Day is a tremendous honor and privilege. I am grateful for the opportunity. However, given the circumstances, I told Coach Ferentz it would be best for him to select another player. Since the NCAA review is not yet complete, I don't feel it is right for me to represent the team." So mature decision from a veteran up front on that defensive line. And of course, we know that the number of players involved with football, involved with the gambling situation with football is limited. And if Noah Shannon is one of those players, he was a projected starter. He is a projected starter. With that being said, the defensive line is deep. I think a lot of us had a lot of confidence in the guys behind Noah Shannon, like Ontario Thompson, Aaron Graves, certainly Logan Lee, who will line up next to Noah Shannon for the majority of this season. I will say this, based on the information that I got back when Noah Shannon decided to come back for an extra year, NIL was part of that decision. And the reason I bring that up is this is the weird place where we are with NIL and players opting to come back for an extra year. I know that's probably not going to be as common as players using it as an incentive to attend a school in the first place. But you just wonder now how much of Noah Shannon's season will be impacted by this gambling situation, assuming the NCAA does lay down an additional punishment for Iowa players, and I would assume that they would. I think the schools have an opportunity to take action first. I know at Iowa State, it sounds like that's happened already. Maybe isn't out there in the public yet, but there will be consequences on top of the potential NCAA consequences. Now, the school could work that out as far as if the NCAA says, hey, we're going to punish you for 3 games. The schools could say, okay, well, we're going to suspend you for 1. We're going to make our 1 part of that 3-game suspension, so you only miss 3. I don't know. I'm just speculating on this. But my point being, if Noah Shannon misses a 3rd or a 4th of the season, that's one of those tough things with NIL. You got paid to come back, basically, and now you're not playing. Now, again, I'm not saying that that was Noah Shannon's number one motive for coming back, but I was told that NIL was a factor there. So what will be the punishment for Noah Shannon and his fellow teammates that are under investigation? By the way, Jay Higgins is the guy that's going to be replacing Noah Shannon at media days. In fact, before we get to discipline and all that, and we've had some recent updates to the NCAA guidelines on that, let's take a look at the official release from the university regarding Jay Higgins replacing Noah Shannon at Big Ten Media Days. And of course, Noah Shannon's quote is listed here as well. This is the release that was put out there Wednesday afternoon. University of Iowa Moon family head football coach Kirk Ferentz announced on Wednesday that linebacker Jay Higgins will be representing Iowa football at the Big Ten Media Day. Higgins will attend in place of Noah Shannon due to Shannon's involvement in the NCAA investigation into sports gambling. Now, you skip down past Noah's statement. Here's a statement from Kirk Ferentz. Noah's decision to share this information and suggest that another player take his place is reflective of his character, said Ferentz. Noah is a committed and dedicated teammate, and this is a fine example of him always wanting to put the team first. Higgins, a native of Indianapolis, enters his 4th year in the Hawkeye football program. He totaled 39 tackles, 20 of which were solo tackles, last year behind consensus All-American Jack Campbell. Higgins was awarded the team's Hayden Fry Award for special teams, which is presented to those who show exemplary leadership and dedication, and the Next Man In Award on defense following the 22 season. He has played in 31 games over his first 3 seasons. So it'll be nice for Jay Higgins to kind of have that homecoming vibe feel back in the Indianapolis area. And I know his dad, very active on Twitter. He's kind of become Twitter famous in the Hawkeye realm. And he's got an opportunity to be a really productive player at Iowa this year alongside Nick Jackson. Then we'll see kind of how Iowa sets up that defense. How much do you see the cash with Sebastian Castro? And then how much do you see guys like Kyler Fisher, etc.? But I digress. This is impactful to some extent. Now, I will say the NCAA updated their punishments for student involved gambling. In fact, I'm going to share an article here from ESPN that was written back on June 28th when this updated discipline was officially released from the NCAA. This is from David Purdom of ESPN. He says the NCAA is amending its penalties for student athletes who violate the association's gambling policy, increasing leniency and in some cases basing punishments on the amount wagered. The Division I Legislative Committee on Tuesday ratified guidelines for reinstating student athletes who violate sports betting rules, the NCAA has announced. Betting by student athletes on any sport offered by the NCAA is prohibited, and in the past has resulted in a loss of a season of eligibility. Yes, an entire season. Now, the new guidelines are more nuanced. Student athletes found to have engaged in activities to influence the outcome of games they're involved with or provided information to individuals involved in betting will face a potential permanent loss of collegiate eligibility. The guideline applies to student athletes who bet on their own games or on other sports at their own school. So that's pretty consistent, right? You bet on your own sport, you help someone else bet on a game you're involved with, you're basically going to be done. And I think that's probably pretty fair, although pretty strict discipline to say the least. Student athletes who bet on their own sport but not involving their school are subject to a potential loss of 50% of one season. Student athletes who bet on their own sport but not involving their school are subject to a potential loss of 50% of one season. So this could be a situation where somebody on the Iowa football team bet on a Missouri football game or a USC football game. Again, potential loss of 50% of one season. For all other wagering-related violations, the cumulative dollar value of the wagers will be taken into consideration when determining the punishment. Bets totaling $201 to $500, for example, could result in a loss of 10% of a season of eligibility, plus rules and prevention education. Bets totaling more than $800 could result in a loss of 30% of a season of eligibility, plus rules and prevention education. So a couple questions I have based on the rule revision here from the NCAA. One being they list bet totals as being a factor with this, $201 to $500 for a bet or potentially an $800 plus bet, and how impactful that would be on the NCAA's decision as far as punishing a student athlete. My question is, if there are a bunch of smaller bets, which I think is more likely when you're talking about these student athletes using these modern day betting sites and apps, if the total is over $800, does that impact things, or would it have to be a singular bet that exceeds a certain dollar amount? That's a question I would have. And another question I would have is, what if a student athlete bet on a different sport within their same institution? So in other words, Iowa football players, there were rumors, and I don't think they were ever substantiated, but rumors that there were Iowa football players that had bet on the Iowa-South Carolina women's basketball Final Four game. How much of that was true? I'm guessing maybe nothing. I don't know. But would there be an impact there? Not listed in this revision, this discipline revision from the NCAA. Would there be a different level of punishment for something like that? So we're still waiting to hear from the NCAA. I don't know how long this is going to take. I've said for a long time I would anticipate we're going to hear something by fall camp, because availability for fall camp and practice, I would think, would be impacted by this. I know Iowa State has been impacted as far as availability up until at least this month. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I will give Noah Shannon credit, and I'll agree with Kirk Ferentz. Mature decision for him to come out and announce this, as opposed to being at Big Ten Media Days or then at the last second having to pull out because the NCAA hasn't announced anything. Just get it out of the way. Take leadership. Take ownership. And if he misses time, if Noah Shannon misses time, Iowa's got depth on the defensive line. That's probably the best position to lose a starter. You never want to lose a starter, right? Especially a guy with the experience of Noah Shannon. But if they can absorb that anywhere, it's probably along that defensive line. So I wanted to give you an update on what's happening with Iowa football and the gambling investigation. Jay Higgins, linebacker Jay Higgins, will be replacing Noah Shannon at Big Ten Media Days, which is coming up in just days. We'll have coverage for you right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We'll talk to you soon.